Today's video is going to be a little bit different, and I'm pretty excited for it. I get an awful amount of questions when it comes to making YouTube videos from you guys in the Discord, in the comment section, and on Twitter regarding how do I make my videos more professional for YouTube and that process that goes along with it. So I thought I would just jump in and do a video on 50 of the most commonly asked questions that I get on a day-to-day basis, and see if I can do it in less than 10 minutes. So let's just jump right into it. 10 minutes on the clock, starting right now. How do you get over the fear of starting to make videos? Honestly, just start. It's as simple as that. The best way to improve your videos is to actually just jump in and start making them. That first video that you make will absolutely be trash. It will be the worst video you will ever do, and that's okay. That is where you need to start off to learn the rest of the process and figure out your style, your kind of niche, the things you want to do. That is important. That first video is probably the worst and best video you can potentially make. What software should I use to edit my videos? DaVinci Resolve is a professional video editing and color grading application you can download for free, and the free version of the software pretty much does what 90% of what YouTubers actually need to use it for. There is also a paid version of DaVinci Resolve that you can buy for a single one-time fee of $2.99, but I've left a link to that down below, and I've also got a video talking about the different kinds of software that you can get. I've left a link for that up here as well. How long does it / should it take you to edit a video for YouTube? This is very dependent on the actual video that you're editing, but a general like alpha gaming video that I get from Harris usually takes me around 4 hours to get a finalized, finished, polished edit done. From there, exporting and uploading and then getting feedback takes probably the longest part of the entire process. And then any changes, depending on the severity, can take me another hour or two just to kind of make the tweaks and get things looking just right. So all in all, I would probably say around 6 to 8 hours roughly, so probably a full day's worth of work when it comes to editing a video. How do you go about finding stock assets like icons, templates, sound effects, and music? I have a couple of different places that I go to for those kinds of things. First of all, Epidemic Sound is a great resource for music and sound effects if you guys are looking for things that are royalty-free for your videos. They have a pretty big collection, but also there's places like Hollywood Edge, Video Copilot, Premium Beat, and Artlist. For icons, I recommend websites like the Noun Project and Flat Icon. You also have sites like the Envato Marketplace that have links to music, templates, stock video files, and all sorts, and I've left links to all of these down in the description below. What genre of video should I make? That comes down to you and what you personally enjoy. I always recommend making videos that you would actually enjoy watching yourself. If you enjoy them, then somebody else will more than likely enjoy them too. How do you stay on topic during a video? You write a script, simple as that really. Have a format, an outline, or a script that you can refer to during the video to keep you on track when you are filming. If you feel like you're rambling and you're starting to say things that don't really make sense or aren't really relevant to the video, pause, take a deep breath, and then start over. You're in no rush for anyone. You're going to be editing this video later on, so take your time. And on the back of that, as a professional tip for you guys, if you are feeling like you're rambling an awful lot during the editing process, then cut it out completely. One of the best things I've learned as an editor over my time is to be really strict with yourself when it comes to editing content that you feel like isn't providing any value or information. Always think of things like, does this information help? Does this help the point I'm trying to make? Or is it just pointless waffle that can be removed? What's the best way to get better sound and audio for my videos? The single best way is to get the microphone as close to your mouth as possible. Invest some money into a decently strong light stand, and if you use one of these Rode microphones, all you need is an extension cable to extend the distance from your camera to the microphone. And once you've done that, get the microphone as close as possible to your mouth. I recommend the distance between your thumb and your pinky finger as kind of like a nice rule of thumb when it comes to determining the distance between one and the other. If you're shooting on a wide angle lens, then try and get the microphone as close as you possibly can. What do you do to focus on editing? Well, the way I do it is I usually set around 60 to 90 minutes of distraction-free work time to focus on editing the video at hand. Put on some instrumental music or put on a podcast that you enjoy listening to, and then just get the work done. And once that timer's up, stand up, stretch, go on a walk maybe, then come back and then repeat the process until the work is done. What is the best upload schedule for YouTube? In your analytics on YouTube, you'll find an audience tab that will tell you when the most traffic is when it comes to your audience, when the majority of your audience are online. That's probably the best time to upload a video to YouTube. And in terms of how many videos you actually upload, I recommend at least one a week just to start getting you into the rhythm of uploading a video to your channel, and say max 2 a week for a comfortable upload schedule. It's a nice round number. But feel free to experiment with your upload schedule and see what works best for you without giving you massive burnout. What do you do if your footage is completely unusable? You refilm it. Simple as that. Do you have any tips for speeding up the editing process? Yes, keyboard shortcuts. Using keys like J, K, and L are a great start to help speed up your editing, and I talk about them in my editing tips video, which you can find up here as well as in the description down below. Simply put though, J, K, and L keys are speed modifiers for your playback on your timeline. Pressing L twice will move the timeline forward 2x speed, and pressing J will move the timeline back in 2x speed. I can still comfortably manage and listen to what's being said at twice the speed, so it allows me to edit twice as fast because I'm listening to things twice as fast. And as another tip, I highly recommend saving things that you do fairly frequently as effects presets so you can drag and drop onto your timeline for quicker editing. I do this a lot with different video and audio effects like color correction, EQ, and compression that I can just drag and drop and apply to my footage when I need to. In Final Cut Pro, you just go to the inspector and click Save Effects Preset, give it a name, and then click Save. In Premiere, go to your effects control panel, right click on your effects, and then click Save Preset. And in Resolve, you can apply all of the color correction and grading things that you need to do for your video to an adjustment clip, and then drag the adjustment clip into a power bin for future projects. How often should I use J and L cuts? I often think of editing as like writing a story, and I find J and L cuts are like punctuation when it comes to the editing process because they help continue the flow, continue the narrative, continue the point that you're trying to make. J or L cuts are used to help continue that narrative, but they can be overused. So just make sure you keep an eye on the overall flow of your video. Make sure it's not going too quick or too slow, and just, you know, hone things in when they need to be. Let things breathe when they need to be. So just keep that in mind when you next edit a YouTube video. What do you do when your video doesn't do well on the views? You're not losing anything when you first start out making videos, so just learn from it, suck it up, and get to making the next one. I've just started making videos. How do I find myself an editor? You don't. I recommend at least spending 5 years, minimum 5 years, working on your own content to develop a style and a taste for what you enjoy the most. Learn what you like and you don't like first, do it for yourself, and then as you start building your community, those editors will find you. Then when it comes to someone else editing, you've learned the craft, you've learned the lingo, then you can communicate well with the person you brought onto your team to make your videos look even better. How do you decide what to make a video on? I have my own personal interests and my own experiences that I want to share with you guys, the knowledge that I've gathered over the years. And I like to follow the Gary Vee example that I've talked about previously on videos, which is the document versus create analogy. What process do I do that I can document and make a video on? What am I good at personally that I can educate others in that will help them make better content and make better videos? And I also have my own ideas from time to time that don't necessarily relate to the processes that I do. And when I do have those ideas, I write them down in a notebook. And it's probably the single most important thing that I can recommend to any content creator, any creative out there, is to just carry around a notebook with you, something that you can write your ideas down when you get them. It's also a great way to get into that creative mindset when you know you have something with you that you can use to write those ideas down when you get them and stay organized with them. What are the best export settings for YouTube? Google has a support document on this, which I've linked down below, which pretty much goes into detail what kind of things you need to do to get the most quality out of your YouTube video. Just bear in mind that YouTube does go through a heavy amount of compression when you upload a video, so just take that in mind. And I recommend actually using the video quality and the video codec that has the most bit depth, and the bit rate is extremely high for that video. You may have a larger file size, but you know when you upload it, the compression isn't going to be as bad. Again, I've linked the document down below, but I've also included the Final Cut Pro 10 presets that I use for my videos, so if you want to use them in your videos, I've included those as well. Can you use natural natural lighting for your videos? Oh, absolutely. Natural lighting is great, but you do lack control when it comes to how your videos look. But the one thing I can recommend getting is a reflector to just help shape that light and bend it in different ways to help make your videos look a little bit better. How can I make my videos more cinematic? Cinematic is a word that's thrown around an awful lot nowadays. A lot of the time, cinematic is marketed as like color grades or LUTs or things you can do to your footage after you filmed it. And while that might be a part of the actual process, the best way to get cinematic footage is to light and frame your shots correctly. Lighting and cinematography are the two main important parts of getting cinematic footage, so learn how you can light your scenes for more dramatic looking shots, or experiment with the different kind of lighting techniques that you can do with the lights that you have. One thing I can recommend doing is actually look at high-end movies and see how scenes are shot that way, and then recreate them and learn the techniques that way. Instead of editing your project in a 1920 by 1080p timeline, edit it in a 1920 by 823 timeline instead. That will leave a cinematic crop on your footage that kind of emulates footage shot with a anamorphic lens and shot in that aspect ratio. And I've left a link to a calculator that you guys can use in the description below if you're using footage above HD to calculate what your crop should be. How do you stay motivated and how do you keep going when times are bad? For me, it's all about perspective and being aware that this process takes time. Knowing that content creation is all about the peaks and the valleys and the ups and the downs is what keeps me going and tries to do better every single day. The single most important thing people forget to be when it comes to this industry is to be patient. People look at content creators and see overnight success and they think I can get that as well, when really it took them 10 years to get that success. And the best way to treat this entire process is to look at it knowing that it's going to take you 10 years to do something, but you're maximizing every single day of those 10 years to get to where you need to get to. How important is sound and lighting for videos? Here, let me actually just show you how important they are. This camera and this lens is close to $6,000, and right now it's using the built-in microphone on the camera, and I'm just using the lights in my room. And now it's using the lights in my studio and my professional XLR microphone. Good sound and good lighting are essential for good video. How do you stay on track when you have multiple projects going on? I personally use a service called Trello, which is basically like a project management board. We have different lists and different checklists and different cards that you can use to keep track of projects going on. I have a YouTube content creator board and I have different lists for the different stages of the production process. Trello is free for the most part. There are premium options, but to be honest with you, I've never used them. So if you guys want to check it out, I have left a link down to it below. Is there a point in 4K? There can be. 4K is becoming more of a widely accepted format now. More and more people are buying 4K monitors, more and more people are buying 4K TVs. Things are becoming a bit more relaxed and a bit more kind of accessible when it comes to 4K stuff. But if you don't upload your videos in 4K, shooting in 4K has a lot of benefits. 4K is essentially 4 1080p screens in a grid. You can use all of this data to do some reframing and to move the shot around if you shot it incorrectly. How do I find my niche? Niche is an interesting word to me. I've always recommended finding a subject that you enjoy doing and sticking with it as your main topic, but only when you start out. A niche is a great way to start building your channel and building your brand, and over time, as you start developing a channel, start building a community, start building more of a following, you can start slowly branching out into other areas of content that you want to make, but keep it in the same umbrella of the things you do already. Do you decide your brand from the start, or do you let it form as you grow? For me, your brand definitely forms more the more you grow as a content creator. The more content you make, the more you'll find your brand differs in different areas, and you'll find things you enjoy doing more than others. And as that happens, your brand will evolve, it will change. You may find that the content you started making to begin with is different to the content you're making in a year's time. So yes, you can start off with an idea of what you want to do, but be okay with that changing the more you grow. Advice on making better thumbnails. I did a video on thumbnails with Harris a while back. I'll leave a link to it up here. But basically, your thumbnails are pretty much the single most important part of your video, aside from your title. I know it's kind of weird to say that, but it is what it is. Always think about how your thumbnail and your title can complement one another. Don't put the title of the video in the thumbnail. Come up with other buzzwords that you can include in your thumbnail that will attract attention and get those clicks on that video. and then your title will allow you to draw more of those people in as well. Think of the content and then build your title from that, and then use that title to create a really unique and interesting thumbnail. And if you guys want a bit more in-depth video on making thumbnails and actually designing a thumbnail from scratch, then let me know down in the comments below. How do you capture B-roll with any fancy gear like gimbals? Adding some more weight to your camera is a great way to get more stable footage. Adding things like cages and handles is a great way to add that stability and add more weight to the camera. One other thing you can do is actually use your camera strap to get more stable footage. If you put it around your neck and then push your camera out and create a really tight line with your camera strap and your camera, you get some really nice, smooth, stable motion because you have an extra point of contact with the camera. You can also use your hands and then put something underneath them to slide across objects to create some really nice, smooth dolly movements. How often should you use B-roll in the edit? B-roll is a very flexible way of conveying new information, but only when it's necessary. You can overuse B-roll, so I recommend using it to just convey new information, to help explain points that you're making in more detail, or to showcase different things like a product you're reviewing, or to show things on a computer screen. Use it often, but only use it to convey points of interest that you need to add emphasis to. What are some of the best places to learn video production / video editing? Well, if you're enjoying this video and want to see more things like this, then I recommend subscribing to the channel and giving it a like if you enjoyed the video. But there's other resources like Video Copilot for Adobe After Effects, Ripple Training for Final Cut Pro, Premiere Pro, DaVinci Resolve, and Apple Motion Training. Along with that, there's some Affinity Designer and Affinity Photo tutorials on their own YouTube channels and their website, as well as other YouTube resources for filmmaking like Filmright, Peter McKinnon, Daniel Schiffer, you know them all. And I've also linked a couple of my other favorites down below. Does it really matter what software you use? No. People have a tendency to get hung up on the idea of things being industry standard. Something being industry standard makes no sense in the content creation sphere because there is no real industry. In TV and film, it's different. There are industries already there, there's architectures in place, so it's a different use case there. But on YouTube, no. It doesn't matter. How do you apply color corrections and effects in the edit? I do something a little bit differently inside of Final Cut Pro 10 that works really, really well, and it relates to an earlier point that I mentioned before. The first thing I do is put all of my A-roll content inside of what's called a multicam clip. Once I've done all of that, what I do is in that clip is I apply my color correction and my audio effects to those clips using the presets I mentioned earlier. I then throw that multicam clip into a project and I edit the multicam clip itself. The reason for this is that when it comes to me making tweaks or adjustments to the color grade or the audio in general, I can do that inside of the multicam clip. It makes it super easy to fix things down the line if something breaks. How much B-roll should I film? In today's world, storage is pretty cheap. SD cards, hard drives, SSDs are all pretty inexpensive, and you can get a lot of storage for relatively inexpensive cost. The saying goes, I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So bear that in mind when it comes to shooting B-roll and overshooting footage. Should I start a second channel for other types of content? I don't think making 2 channels or at least another channel is necessary when you're first starting out. Most people have a problem making 1 channel successful, so I don't see the reason why you would want to balance 2 channels and equally try and build them up as well. However, if you've been doing this for a while and you want to do more diversified content and you're worried about the audience on your main channel, that's when I would recommend setting up a second channel or a third channel if you have more than one to post that content to. But the takeaway is start with 1 and then grow from there. How do you add call to actions to videos? For example, subscriber animations. I usually make those myself, but there are a few websites that I have used in the past for similar things. Motion VFX has MTuber and MTuber 2 packs for Final Cut Pro 10 that include similar animations like those. These are mostly for Final Cut Pro 10, but there are some available for Adobe Premiere and Resolve. I've linked to some other options down below that you can go check out, and I've also made a free one available for everybody on my Discord, so there's a link for that also down below. What is the best way to structure a YouTube video? It really comes down to the simple 3-act structure: beginning, middle, and end. In the beginning, you have some kind of introduction that will hook the audience and bring your audience in to make them watch that video. The middle is where you'll set up your problem, your conflict, where you're going to discuss the issue at hand and give context to the rest of the video. And finally, it's the end, where it's the resolution and the result resolve for the video and the conclusion for everything. So for example, you open the video where you talk about a product that you're going to review. You then review it, you look at the pros and the cons, the problems you've had with it, the good things and the bad things with it. And your third act is your conclusion and your opinion and solving any of the issues you might have had during that middle stage. You've opened with the hook to get your audience's attention. You then lay the foundation and the context for the video, and then you round it all off with the resolution and conclusion. How do I get into the YouTube algorithm? The algorithm is YouTube's recommendation system, really. It really comes down to the content that you've watched in the past and what YouTube thinks you will enjoy watching more of. And it recommends content based on three main things. It bases on watch time, engagement, and click-through rate. Click-through rate is the click-through rate of your thumbnail. It's how many people have clicked on your thumbnail when they see it in search or in recommended or in the browse page. Watch time is how long people have watched the video for, so it really looks at how long people are engaged with the video, if it's got a short retention span, if it's got a long retention span. And it also looks at things like engagement, likes, subscribes, comments on the video, the overall engagement of the video itself. And if you have high engagement, high view time, and a fantastic click-through rate, you're more likely to get your videos recommended. And how do you take advantage of all of that? You just make good videos. What is the best way of writing a script? What I actually do with my scripts is actually break them down into smaller chunks that are bullet pointed. Having smaller sentences is easy to digest and to remember and to convey that more naturally. Make notes on what you want to say, not so much how to say it. Which video editing software would you not recommend for beginners? Adobe Premiere. If you are just starting out, bear that in mind. If you are just now starting out making videos, spending $50+ a month on a service where you're not making any money back is a bit silly. Go for solutions like DaVinci Resolve or single one-time purchases where you're not making monthly contributions to use the software you need to use. If you get it for free though as a student or as a teacher, then that's a different story. But if you're just starting out and you have no money, and you have no monthly income and you're spending money just to make something, then reconsider that. How do you edit videos so they are more immersive? The single best way to make videos more immersive, in my opinion, is to focus on sound and sound design. Audio and video is more like a 70-30 split when it comes to importance. Audio is so much more important than video. When you watch a film or a TV show or a video online, you are watching a series of images cut together to form a narrative. Your brain is doing a lot of heavy lifting, a lot of work trying to piece everything together, so the audio really helps kind of seamlessly move things together. Using audio and sound design to create seamless transitions across your video is a great way to create immersion in your video. If you're editing to a deadline, what do you do? What I typically do is pretty much forego any pretty stuff until the last minute. Get the content, get the story down, right down to a T, and you can focus on all the pretty stuff later. Also, learning the software and learning the craft that you're using on a day-to-day basis is a great way to speed up your editing. Like I mentioned earlier, keyboard shortcuts, saved effects presets, all of these things come together will help you save time when you are editing. What are some things that you can do to improve YouTube SEO? YouTube SEO is a pretty interesting thing, and there's some discussion online on what works and what doesn't work. Obviously, having a title and a thumbnail is pretty important. Having those that are clickable are the main reasons why you will get views on YouTube. The description is where your main form of SEO will be, but make sure you got things in your title and in your description that are searchable when you are making your video. And along with that, I also use a tool called TubeBuddy, which helps me kind of filter down the keywords and the key phrases that I need to include in my tags. And if you guys want to check out TubeBuddy, I've left a link to that also down below. Original content or highlighted content. No one will be actively searching out your YouTube or gameplay videos simply because they don't know who you are. Instead, focus on making original, searchable content because that is the best way to grow on YouTube, especially if you are brand new. Larger creators go into the genre of making gameplay videos and they'll be able to keep doing it because people know who they are. New creators need to play it smart and use the search engine functionality inside of YouTube to their advantage. What are the important YouTube metrics that I should be looking at? The main ones you should be looking at and focusing on are click-through rate and watch time, as well as your overall view count. Your watch time shows you your audience retention data, and it will show you where audiences drop off in your video. If you find they're dropping off regularly at a certain point in your video, say it's during an intro sequence that you've made, then it might be best to rethink using that intro in future videos. And your click-through rate is showing you how successful your thumbnail is across YouTube. The typical click-through rate on YouTube is around 2 to 10%, so keep an eye on that number and then adjust your thumbnail if it's not reaching the number that you want it to reach. And then obviously how well your video is performing based on your watch time and on your thumbnail is based also on your views as well. So keep an eye on all of those 3 metrics and you're golden. When should I invest in better gear? Gear changes constantly. Every year there's a new camera or a new phone or some new kind of item that's out and about that people want to get a hold of. And at that point, it really comes down to diminishing returns and what that camera can do for you. Start with what you have access to and be more creative in how you create your videos. And as you start making money, invest smartly in the gear that you want to get. When is the best time to learn animation or to buy a template? Learning a new skill is never a waste of time, and I usually recommend learning at least the basics of animation just to get started. And while you're learning how to animate, I recommend buying templates that you can use immediately to increase the production value of your videos. There's nothing wrong with using a template, and it's a great way to save time so you can focus on learning the software that you need to learn while also increasing the production value on your YouTube videos out of the gate. Again, more links to resources down below if you guys want to check out any templates. What part of the process should I spend more time on? For me, I spend more time actually writing my videos than filming and editing them. Well, actually I don't spend any time editing them because Scott edits them for me. I will take as long as I need to focus on making sure the story and the content look right when I'm writing the video before I actually start filming anything. Again, another saying which is failing to plan is planning to fail. So make sure you plan a lot ahead of time and you spend less time filming the actual video. Quality or quantity in your videos? I find quality and quantity are actually very similar and they work well together. Someone like Casey Neistat uploads different content to someone like MKBHD. While both produce high quality content, Casey is more focused on vlogs and daily experiences, and his production quality is pretty good, but his videos are shorter. Whereas Marquez spends more time on the production value of his videos, and they may release 1 or 2 a week. Focus on making the best quality videos you can make, while then also trying to manage the quantity of that video, and then find a cohesion between the two where the quality is really, really high, but you can upload to a consistent schedule. And that is 50 tips. Hopefully I did those in 10 minutes. I don't think I did. Scott, did we do it? Did we make it? Did we do 10 minutes? Did we do 50 tips in 10 minutes? Probably not. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed the video, then be sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this in the future. And if you guys have any other questions that I may have missed, then feel free to leave them down in the comments below, and maybe we'll do another video like this in the future. Or if you want to ask the larger community your question, get some more feedback from other content creators, designers, editors, and streamers and the like, then feel free to join the Discord. The link for that is down in the description down below. And once again, as always, I will see you all next time. Take care.